Hey, welcome to Football Predictions and Food and Wine Pairings. Now, this week's game is one that I'm going to be honest, I'm not really excited about. I'm excited to see Josh Allen throw a lot of touchdowns because he's my fantasy football quarterback. But other than that, I don't think it's going to be a very good game. It is the Miami Dolphins at Buffalo playing the Buffalo Bills. The Dolphins are 0-2 and they've looked like trash these last 2 weeks. Meanwhile, the Bills are 2-0 and they look like they're kicking ass and taking names. Let's face facts. Tua Tagovailoa, who is the quarterback for the Dolphins, is nowhere near as good as Josh Allen, who is the Bills quarterback. If the Dolphins manage to not embarrass themselves tonight, I feel like that's going to be a real win for them. Even Vegas thinks that the Dolphins don't have a chance. The Bills are an 11.5-point favorite for tonight's game. That's crazy. Anyway, go ahead and take the Bills. I'm taking the Bills. Let's be done with football. Let's talk about the food and wine. Now, as I mentioned on Monday, we are in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month, and today, September 18th, happens to be the Independence Day of the country of Chile. So I decided as a tribute to Chile that we would have some Chilean wine. I knew I was going to be making a food dish that is actually a Mexican dish, but I decided to go with Chilean wine. I'm going to be making chili relleno rice with salsa roja. And what this is instead of chili rellenos, which are generally covered in kind of an egg batter, the pepper's covered in egg batter, and I'm really not crazy about that. This eliminates the egg batter, and you wind up cooking the chili relleno right inside the rice at the same time, and then when you take it out, you put this delicious red sauce on it. I'll be making this later on today, so look for a video of me preparing this food. So when I was trying to find a wine that was going to go with something that is a little bit spicy, not very spicy, but had some spice, one of the things that I found was a suggestion for a light-bodied red. And since it was Chile's Independence Day, I figured maybe Chile had some red wines. I wasn't sure about the red wines beyond Pais and Carignan, but it turns out that they have also Pinot Noir and Malbec. When I think of Chile, I normally think of Torrontés and Albarino, which are white varietals. But I was like, I'm not super crazy about Malbec. Let's give it a try. So for today's wine, we have Vista Mar Reserva 2020 Malbec from the Mal Valley. So I had to really get into more about this Mal Valley because I was not familiar. So just to give you a little bit of historical context, grapes have been growing in Chile since the 16th century when Spanish conquistadors came there. In case you didn't know, basically all of the countries that are Spanish speaking had conquistadors there. And because they were Catholic, part of what was happening was immediately upon arrival, they were establishing a Catholic outpost, and the priests and the church needed wine for ceremonial use. I'm sure it was just for ceremonial use, but every place that you see a large Catholic influence, you can expect to find wine there. And so that's where we're getting this wine from here in Chile. And this area, the Mal Valley, is actually on the absolute opposite end of, or diagonally across from, the Mendoza Valley in Argentina. The Andes Mountains separate them. And most people know Malbec as being an Argentinian wine, and many people would argue that the best Malbec in the world does come from Argentina. So I wanted to give this a chance and see what we got. So let's take a look. So when you're taking a look in the glass, it looks pretty dark, but actually what you can see is that it has a really light ruby color on the edge. And when you're giving it a whiff, it has kind of a vegetal smell. So when I say vegetal, think something green like bell pepper or herbs. It has that kind of a smell, but it also smells like vanilla and chocolate, kind of like a marshmallow, like a toasted marshmallow. And on the tongue, it's a very thin, light kind of a wine, very similar to Pinot Noir. And it's high tannin because it has a long finish. I'm still getting the drying on the side of my mouth right now. As for the taste, we're getting blackberry, I'm getting a lot of oak, which would relate right back to that kind of toasty marshmallow scent that I was picking up. And I'm also getting a little touch of vanilla. And that actually comes directly from the oak. So those kind of low-level caramel flavors that you would associate with bourbon can also be in here. Overall, I bought this bottle of wine for $11, and I thought it was okay. You know, do you have to run out and get it? No, but if you wanted to try something new, I think you absolutely should. All right, let's recap it. 1, go ahead and take the Buffalo Bills. 2, today's wine, Vistamar Reserva 2020 Malbec from the Mal Valley, Chile. All right, I'll see you soon. Cheers.